Okay, this video is called the Vico Tytler Cycle of History. All right, so we start out with, I'm just showing you this picture of a magnificent civilization. You could call this the apex of civilization. It's painted by Thomas Cole. He's of the Hudson River School of Painters around 1836. He, I think, is the greatest story painter of all time. His two series of paintings, this one called The Consummation of Empire, as well as his other series of paintings called The Voyage of Life. I've done previous videos about him. He's magnificent. The other greatest story painter of all time would probably be, of course, Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel. So anyways, here's this magnificent civilization enjoying the bounty of their wealth. All right, so let's get into what Vico and Tytler said. So this is Giambattista Vico. He was an Italian historian, like in the 1700s, and this is Alexander Tytler from the 1700s, early 1800s. And we'll start out with what Vico had noticed. Vico had noticed in other previous civilizations, they'd often go through an age of the gods, so to speak, when they were very religious, and then an age of heroes when they were very brave and courageous. And this would produce a free country. Often they had been victorious in war. It had produced a free country, and the people were hardworking, very religious, and they built up a very successful society. And then they started to become decadent, and society fell apart. So here's a quote by Vico. "The nature of people is at first crude, then severe, then benign, then delicate, finally dissolute. Once reason becomes skeptical and critical, it eliminates superstition and religion. However, it was this superstition and religion that had created the energizing philosophy that was the glue that held society together and led to social cooperation. And it was this social cooperation that had enabled civilization to emerge in the first place. The energizing philosophy is then replaced by a barren intellectualism, and the society will fall into decadence and collapse or be overrun from without. What follows is a new barbarism. The society will not restore itself until it reestablishes its faith in God." So he had seen, again, what had happened with the ancient Greeks, and then a similar pattern with the ancient Romans, and then he saw that the Catholic Church had sort of reestablished an age of the gods and civilization at the end of the Roman Empire. And then there was the age of heroes with chivalry, men like King Arthur, men like King Charlemagne, who promoted education, working with Alcuin and whatnot. But that he felt that around his day in the late 1700s, that society was falling into this vague intellectualism, like with Descartes, for example, trending almost towards atheism and, the so-called Enlightenment, which is a bogus name. And he saw that this was potentially going to lead to the collapse of Christendom. Okay. Now, Alexander Tytler was a Scottishman. Vico was an Italian guy, and he was a professor of the ancient Greeks and Romans. And some of the things that he'd noticed, of course he'd read, Plato's Republic and whatnot, and about what a disaster democracies are. America, by the way, was not meant to be a democracy. If somebody tells you that, most of the time they don't know what they're talking about. Other times they're intentionally lying to you. America was meant to be a republic. Okay? So Tytler says democracies are always temporary. They last until the majority realizes it can vote for candidates who promise the most benefits from the public treasury. Then the society will financially collapse. And this is always followed by a dictatorship. The average age of the world's greatest civilizations has been about 200 years. And these nations always progress through the following sequence. From bondage, here's bondage right here, to spiritual faith. From faith to great courage. They fight for their freedom and they're brave and they win. Okay, from courage to liberty. Now they are free. Their liberty enables them to focus on working and productivity, and they become very prosperous. There is a time of abundance in the country. From this, though, they start to fall into complacency, entitlement, self-absorption, hedonism. Hedonism weakens men. A very good book about how hedonism weakens people is like The Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. There were two sort of great masterpiece books about a society's collapse. And one of them, of course, was, George Orwell, both his Animal Farm and his 1984, of societies collapsing due to, excessive control of them, if you will. Okay, all the things that go with that. That was the one point of view. too much centralized control of the people. But the other one was Aldous Huxley. The people become dissipated. They start abusing substances, becoming intoxicated, becoming lazy and hedonistic and whatnot. Okay, so anyways, then they fall into this worsening apathy until they become sort of incompetent and are dependent on others. And then total control is taking over them, and they were passed back into slavery. Okay, and the modern word for slavery is, you know what it is. Starts with a cow, then a moon, and then east. Okay, so that is the Vico Tytler cycle of history. And I just want to show you some paintings, because these paintings are magnificent. So this is from Thomas Cole, and sort of the bestial savage phase. You can see the guy here hunting with a bow and arrow, and the people just trying to make some food for themselves, to get some food for themselves. Then you've got a little more progress, and then now you have homesteaders, okay? And he's catching some fish, they're growing some crops, they're a little bit better off than they used to, and they can live in one land, live in one spot. Okay, and then they sort of have a agricultural pastoral paradise, sort of characterized by the Greek scene of Arcadia. Okay, and this is sort of the beginning of the golden age, if you will. And then this painting right here, again by Thomas Cole. All these paintings in this thing are by Thomas Cole. It's called The Artist's Dream. And the artist can see in his mind's eye this magnificent society with churches, cathedrals, and with great buildings sort of characteristic of Greco-Roman architecture. And he sees the whole thing in his mind's eye and starts to develop it. And it comes to fruition. And the society is prosperous and rich, and this is as good as it gets. Life's never perfect, but this is as good as it gets for society on Earth. They're wealthy, they have time to become educated, they have time to pursue their hobbies, they have time to live a decent life with decent health and a decent society and feel safe and stuff like that. Okay, but the society becomes decadent and dissolute. I kind of went through this slide already, this one here, so I'll go to this one. All right, and so here is the continuation of the Thomas Cole series of paintings called The Course of Empire. And now the society has become dissolute and weak, and the invaders come, and these are Viking ships, so let's say these are the Viking invaders. And they find the people weak, lazy, they have lost their martial virtues, if you will, and they are conquered from without. The Vikings come in and kick their butt, burn down their great buildings, burn down their religious buildings, destroy their society. The women get, you know what, R.A.P., you know what. The men are K.I., you know what. And it's a sad disaster for the society. And then the barbarian invaders are too stupid and uneducated to do anything useful with the society, so it ends up in ruins. And that is the course of history, according to Giambattista Vico and Alexander Tytler. So USA seems to be in this last, second to last step phase, seems to be where USA is at. And remember what Vico said. He said it is only a return to God, to reestablish religious values that a society can hold together and be successful. Because you can remember what the word religion means. It means relegare, legare, the Latin. Legare is to ligate, to tie together, to tie a people together, to unify them so they can cooperate together and work together. If the peoples don't cooperate and there's a lot of crime and bad behavior, society can't function adequately, and everybody's so scared and fearful that everybody's poor. Okay, you look at a neighborhood. If a neighborhood is violent, then everyone is poor in that neighborhood. The stores can't stay. They all go broke, so they all leave. And USA is sort of trending into this pattern with open you-know-what down south. And over approximately, I just heard 45 million you-know-what from across the open you-know-what down south. And some claim that they're all going to VOTE and worse than that. So hopefully America will restore its religious values and come back to prosperity and healthy communities.